Okay.
Reporting on the committee report for the group looking at high school options and opportunities. We've met 3 times. We have contacted 7 schools and asked them a series of questions that we as a group came up with. The schools being Pinkerton, Bow High School, Bedford High School, Goffstown High School, Londonderry High School, Pembroke Academy, and Concord High School. And we have not, as of yet, heard back from 2 of them, being Pembroke and Concord. And at this point in time, a multi-district scheme, the numbers are not there to support us going into a multi-district contract. We do not have enough schools who are willing to take our students that adds up to the number that we need at this time, which is 680 students. As of November 1st, that was the number that we received from the district. And based on our long-range plan, our number could be between 608 and 832, depending on the findings of that committee. And currently, we are not near there. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me or for Mike.
Yes,
we do have a summary. There are, Mike was willing to do this. There are a couple of places that it says it's contingent upon. On number 5, there's some mistakes on Bo's information.
So that's a draft?
It's just, this is for the board to summarize what the questions that we asked of each school district. They were the same questions and what their answers came back with. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions, comments?
I think this is very informative. I just need some time to look it over, but thank you for putting it together.
I just want to make note that, as it says right before the summary, that this is preliminary and formal. A lot of these things would be worked out in some type of negotiation. So all these responses from these districts, it's a preliminary and very informal type number, just so we get a ballpark idea of their answers to these questions. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
At this point in time, the Bedford School District is not interested in a contract with us. They said they can take a certain number of students if they were to come. If they applied and were accepted, Pembroke, we have not heard from them because the superintendent wanted to bring it to their board, which met on the 11th of December, and we haven't heard, and we have not heard back from Concord at all. And much of the answer between Bow and Goffstown is, well, it depends on what Dunbarton does. So Bow could have this number if we have Dunbarton, and that number if we don't have Dunbarton.
Bit of a ripple effect?
Yep. But the total of the schools that have gotten back to us is not near the 680 that we need in information, because you can't assume that 75 students are going to go to private school in the future. They decide that every year. You can't decide, well, this percentage is automatically going to go to private school. You have to take your total population.
Any other questions, comments?
Is there any, I see under Pinkerton, they're saying all students. Is there any information whether they would be interested in a portion? Because I think, to me, that's the determining factor. If Pinkerton says all or nothing, I would agree with your numbers. But, you know, have they given any indication as to that kind of information?
If I may.
Please.
Well, these are just a summary of the answers that were given. The question was, how many students could you accommodate, and when could you take them? And the question was not asked from this as to whether they would be willing to take a course or this or that. It was just, how many students could you take? And they answered all of them. Yeah, so I don't think that question was asked from this committee.
Thank you.
Joe?
Can you just repeat those numbers again? Did you give out earlier about the enrollment?
Our total, as of November 1st, we had 680 high school students. I think she wants the other two numbers.
Yes.
The other numbers were, at our lowest, in our long-range plan, it said 608. Mid-range was 639, and there was a number used of 832 high school students.
Thank you.
Oh, the superintendent.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I'd just like to thank them for all the hard work that they put into this. This is really, I think, what we need is it's a matrix to look at and a good place to start. So I thank the committee for doing that work.
I just wanted to note under number 5, under Bow, that they do not currently have a contract with that town. They are working on one that needs to go in front of their voters in March.
So they do not have that contract.
No, that contract has not been approved by the Dunbarton voters,
Okay.
which is our ripple of why we can't get a definitive number from Goffstown or Bow. It's this if we get this, and it's this if we don't get this.
Understood.
I would just add to that, when I saw in the news about Dunbarton fighting with Goffstown about tuition payments, I got a feeling that they're probably going to end up in Bow because there was some major overcharging that they're all fighting about right now. So if I was a betting person, I think they should probably figure out the Dunbarton there and Dunbarton.
Any other reports?
So, David, if I understand correctly, you would like us to ask Pinkerton if they can take some and not all? Is that a clarification that you would like in our?
Well, I guess as we said, or you said, that the numbers don't add up to a multi-school contract. Because we're taking Pinkerton out of it, I guess, although it says all students, it doesn't say all or nothing, because obviously if you added Pinkerton in, there's room for multi-school. You see what I'm saying? And so that, and if Pinkerton came in and said, you know, well, we would take 300, then doing math here in my head, well, depending on what these other two schools said. That's all I'm saying, is that we know that they can take all the students. I'm just curious if they're interested in, if we didn't go with all, are they interested in a portion, or are they going to take an attitude that's more all or nothing? So.
I don't really think it's an all or nothing, and I think it has to do with how the system at Pinkerton is set up. We have not asked that question directly, but Pinkerton is set up that you become a member town of their community, and if we're not investing all of our students in there, then they would say you go through the regular, I would assume, but we can ask the question that you're either a member community or you're in the 75 kids we take from anywhere who want to come. We could ask the question.
And I think the same thing, and I think to really, as we move forward to answer this question that's on everybody's mind, I think that's going to be the determining factor. Because if Pinkerton says all or nothing, and we decide that we need a school that can, you know, we need to send all our kids to school, it's going to change the way we're thinking here. If Pinkerton came back and said, well, we'll take 400, then I would say it doesn't close the door on multi-school, it leaves it open. So to me, that would be a a very important question, because none of the others are really able to take everybody, we know that.
Mike?
Well, could the superintendent maybe add any clarification, because he was in informal negotiations with these districts from one of our past meetings, so he might have some clarification.
Excuse me, Pinkerton contracts with member districts require the member districts to approve the number of students from non-member districts that attend. So, the member districts send all their kids to Pinkerton. The member district's agreement with Pinkerton is that as a group, they set the number of non-member youngsters that can attend. That number is 50. So you could, following that reasoning, add 50 on to the capacity if we were in some sort of arrangement with Pinkerton, but not a member district. And they gave all the slots available to us.
And I'd also like to point out, very recently, as of this year and last year, those member towns were all asked to increase the number of non-member students that attended, and Derry voted no. And every time Derry votes no, they want it to be 50 non-member students. That has been their history, and that's the one area where Derry feels they have control at Pinkerton, is they control that number. So I can't see Derry changing their tune because Hooksett wants to send 100 kids to Pinkerton.
And just to what Dr. Littlefield said, that is my impression, that to become a member, you have to make that kind of commitment, other than maybe a certain percentage that you're going to let out through non-contract arrangements, what we would call JCB here. And I think that is going to be a determining factor. I guess to do our due diligence, we should wait until we hear from these last two schools. But I think it certainly sets up a situation where, you know, we're going to be able to take a look at this in the very near future and make a decision. That's my take on these numbers. Thank you.
Anything else on the report? No. Okay,
I do have a question.
please.
How long would you think that we should wait for Pembroke and Concord to respond back to a number of requests from Dr. Littlefield for information? I believe Concord has heard from him twice. Like, he's sent the initial and then he followed up and said, are we going to hear from you? Pembroke their board met a week ago. If our superintendent was requested information from Manchester, it wouldn't take a week for them to get a response from us. Tomorrow morning, he would be on the phone with Dr. Brennan saying, this is what the Hooksett School District said.
I would say that when we're ready to make the next move, we make the next move.
Right, because as a parent said earlier, I think we're not ready to vote on anything here tonight, so it's information that we have if they respond in time, you know, but we're not ready to do anything with that. We have to work with our current situation first. So it's just information for us to have, and if we get more information, you know, so be it.
I guess I'm still confused, like, I guess I'm not getting a sense from the board that you want to wait for Pembroke to see how many Pembroke can take? You want to wait until Bo Gostin and Dunbarton do, or are we're trying to get out of Manchester either through a breach or negotiate out? Are we willing to say if those two things happen that we're willing to go to Pinkerton, or do we want to wait for a couple more school districts to decide if they want to talk to us? Yes. I'm just trying to get a sense of where people are.
Well, again, I think when we're ready to make the next move, whatever the next move is, we make that. I mean, we can't just say, well, we've got people that haven't responded. If, you know, when a request is made, the request is made, and if there's no response, you know, one would assume that no response is almost like a no comment, and they don't wish to participate in the discussion. So that would be my take on it. Mike, I know Mike has.
I was just gonna say something similar to that. We're not waiting for them to respond, but we are waiting until the appropriate time to deal with this information, and I don't think that's right now.
I would just like to add that it's not as simple as us voting on either one of these options, because even with a contract with Pinkerton, it's not just us to vote, it has to be negotiated. The terms of that have to be thought out and looked over and agreed upon. So it's not something that we're gonna vote out of here and it's just gonna happen. So we do have some time, and that was part of the reason that the date of 2014 to leave Manchester was decided, so that we could do this correctly. And I would also say to you that because we sent a breach letter to Manchester that says we're gonna leave at that date, that breach may not be upheld. We may have to ask somebody to sign a contract with us contingent upon us leaving our other contract, because we cannot have a contract with two schools. It's our wish to end our contract with Manchester, but we are not going to be the ones that decides when that happens. We're only going to be the ones that say when we would like it to happen. So some of these factors are going to have to be taken into account as we move forward to try to form a contract with another high school. Thank you.
Any more on that report? No?